Good morning, Shavua Tov, everyone. Story told about this couple who were having a disagreement, an argument, and they decided to go to the rabbi to settle their argument. The rabbi listens to his side of the story and says to him, "You're right." Then he turns to her, she tells him her side of the story, and the rabbi says to the wife, "You're right." So the rabbi's assistant, the gabbai, says, "Rabbi, I don't understand. How can he be right and she be right?" And the rabbi looks at the gabbai, the assistant, says, "You're also right." Sometimes it's not one side or the other. There's justification, there's truth to both sides of the story. We find something in this week's parsha very interesting. The Torah says, remember what Amalek did. Amalek was the first nation to attack the Jews when they left Egypt, when we were weak and weary. I always say, imagine Jews leaving the concentration camps, emaciated, skeletons. And imagine somebody would have the audacity to go and attack such a weak and weary nation that just came out of the concentration camps. Well, Jews just came out of Egypt after hundreds of years, and Amalek went and tried to attack us and destroy us. And there's a command in this week's parsha, in every generation, remember Amalek and destroy Amalek. At the same time, the Torah tells us, how should we feel towards the Egyptians who actually enslaved us? The Torah says, don't hate the Egyptians, because you were guests. You were strangers in their land. Before they enslaved you, they welcomed you in during the days of Joseph, when Pharaoh welcomed Joseph's brothers into Egypt. So the question is, Amalek to remember in every generation to wipe out and destroy and we never forget what they did. And the Egyptians, we shouldn't hold a grudge against them. They enslaved us. They drowned our babies in the Nile. And here we have a beautiful insight. You know, when it comes to love, there's two types of love. So the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, what's the difference? When love is conditional and dependent on something, when whatever that is dependent on is no only love you for a reason, when that reason is no longer there for whatever reason, love you for a reason in the first place, the love could never die. It's like, well, you love your baby. What did your baby do? Anything to deserve that love? No, it's just unconditional love. But if you only love a person because they're good or because they're smart or because they whatever benefit you have, then it's conditional. As soon as that's gone, the love is gone. That's why if you marry for the wrong reasons, you're dependent on something. If that thing is gone, then what happens? But the same thing is true with hate. There's conditional hate and unconditional hate. And this is a sad reality. Sometimes someone hates you or you hate someone for a reason. So then there's something to talk about. Maybe we could remove the reason of the hatred. And if we remove the reason, the hatred will leave too. But if the hatred is unconditional hatred, meaning there's no reason for it, it's just irrational hatred, then nothing you're going to do is going to change it. Just like the love will never go away when it's unconditional, the hatred will never go away when it's unconditional. And that's the difference between Egypt versus Amalek. If you look at the story of Egypt, what does it say? Pharaoh was afraid. He said, the Jews are too numerous, they're too prosperous, they're going to outnumber us. The fear of Jews and the anti-Semitism was coming from a place of some kind of a rational reason. Whether it was fear or whatever it was, there was a basis to it. So therefore, now that we're out of their country, they don't have to fear us anymore. Maybe now we can live in peace with them, with the Egyptians. And therefore, don't hold a grudge against them. Don't hate them. Remember the good they did to you when they accepted you when you came there during the days of Joseph and the brothers. But Amalek, what did we ever do to Amalek? We left Egypt, and they were so cruel and evil that they attacked a tired, weary nation. The stragglers in the behind, in the back of the camp. Such evil, such baseless hatred, there's nothing you can do to overcome that. And therefore, remember to fight that kind of evil in every generation. It's a very relevant message today. We all have sometimes disagreements with people. But if there's something to be worked out, by all means, try to work it out. Try to remove the reason for the hatred. But when the hatred is unmitigated, unbiased hatred, it's just pure hatred for the sake of hatred, like some of these fanatical groups, there's nothing you can do to appease them. There's nothing you can do to make peace with them. And therefore, those are the Amaleks in every generation that we have to remember the war will go on, as it says, from generation to generation. Martin Luther King once said that you can't drive away darkness with darkness. You can only drive away darkness with love, with light. Same thing, you can't drive away hatred with hatred. You can only drive away hatred with love. There are many cases where with love, you can turn someone around. But you have to know when you can and when you can't.